What if the greatest threat to the British monarchy right now isn't scandal, public anger, or political pressure, but time itself? Behind the gates of Buckingham Palace, two aging figures stand shoulder to shoulder, fighting a battle the public barely sees. Not a battle for popularity, not a battle for power, a battle for meaning, a battle for permanence. A battle to prove that the institution they inherited from Queen Elizabeth still has a place in a world that moves faster, demands more, and forgives less than ever before. One is the king. The other is the sister who has become his quiet anchor. And together, Charles and Princess Anne are trying to stop the crown from slipping into irrelevance. Before we dive in, there's something I need to share with you. Over the past few days, thousands have watched these stories unfold, but most haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, I invite you now to join us. Subscribe to Crownverse so you never miss the next chapter in this unfolding royal history. The story you are about to hear isn't about scandal or disgrace. It isn't about the explosive controversies that have defined so many headlines in recent years. Instead, this is a story about legacy, about the pressure that comes when the world expects an ancient institution to stay flawless while also demanding it to evolve. It is about Charles and Anne, now in the twilight chapters of their working lives, trying to protect something older than themselves, older than their mother, older than every crisis that has ever shaken their family. But they are protecting it at a moment when the monarchy has never felt more fragile. For decades, the monarchy's survival felt inevitable. The Queen was an institution unto herself, a symbol of stability in a chaotic world. Her presence calmed storms before they formed, her judgment carried more weight than any scandal, and her legacy shielded her children from scrutiny they might otherwise have faced. But everything changed the moment she died. Without Elizabeth, the crown was suddenly exposed. Everything she held together with quiet authority began to unravel in slow motion. Charles knew this better than anyone. He had spent his entire adult life preparing for the throne, yet nothing could prepare him for inheriting it at a moment like this. He stepped into power not with a united family behind him, but with fractures everywhere he looked. Harry and Meghan gone, Andrew disgraced, Edward pulled into controversy over property arrangements, the working royal roster thinner than it had been in generations, public skepticism at an all-time high, costs of maintaining royal estates under intense scrutiny, and an entire nation questioning whether the monarchy still mattered. And in the midst of that storm, one person stepped forward. Not with drama, not with fanfare, but with the same unbroken sense of duty she has carried her entire life, Princess Anne. Anne has always been the monarchy's truth-teller, blunt, unsentimental, and unwavering. She doesn't play to the cameras, she doesn't indulge in palace politics, she doesn't try to impress the public with glossy narratives. She simply works. Harder than anyone, more consistently than anyone, and never for applause. It is no exaggeration to say that Anne became Charles's greatest asset the moment their mother died. While the rest of the institution was shaken, she remained steady. While others retreated, she stepped forward. While scandals dominated headlines, she became the symbol of what the monarchy was meant to be, service above self. In an age where image matters more than ever, Anne brought something more powerful, credibility. And that is why behind closed doors, Charles relies on her more than the public realizes. She is not merely the Princess Royal, she is the unofficial guardian of the monarchy's integrity. If the crown still feels connected to the values of Elizabeth's reign, it is because Anne carries them. But even Anne cannot hide the truth that the world has changed. The monarchy cannot survive by standing still, and Charles knows that better than anyone. Quietly, carefully, he has begun reshaping the institution his mother left behind, reducing the number of royals on the public payroll, pressuring underperforming family members to step aside, enforcing standards that did not exist during the Queen's era, and above all, preparing for the day when William and eventually George will inherit a monarchy that must be leaner, sharper, and more transparent than ever before. This is where Anne becomes indispensable, because she understands something her younger relatives are still learning, that a monarchy survives not through sentiment or nostalgia, but through relevance, and relevance is earned, not inherited. Anne's work behind the scenes reflects this belief. When she speaks at royal events, she emphasizes service, not glamour. When she attends engagements, she focuses on real issues, rural communities, healthcare, veterans, agriculture, areas where the monarchy can make a tangible difference. She doesn't chase influence, she builds it, one relationship at a time, quietly strengthening the monarchy's ties to the people whose support matters most. But even as she does this, she knows time is her enemy. She is 73 years old. She cannot carry the monarchy forever. She can only give Charles enough stability to make sure the transition to William is not a collapse, but a continuation. And that is where the true tension lies, not in public drama, but in generational urgency. Charles and Anne belong to the last generation raised entirely under the Queen's worldview. Duty was absolute, tradition was sacred, public image was carefully controlled. But William and Catherine are shaping something different, more modern, more accessible, more emotionally open, and very likely far smaller. This is the monarchy's real crossroads. It is not about scandals, it is not about individuals, it is about vision. Charles and Anne are trying to preserve the crown's dignity. William is trying to preserve its future. And somewhere between those goals lies the monarchy's survival. Charles's reign, however long it lasts, is the bridge between worlds, and that makes every decision he makes a legacy decision. Cut too much, and he risks abandoning the institution's identity. Modernize too slowly, and he risks losing an entire generation. Anne's guidance helps him avoid the extremes. She reminds him what the monarchy must never lose. He reminds her what it must become. Behind closed doors, this partnership is more strategic than sentimental. Anne is not there to comfort Charles. She is there to sharpen him, to warn him when he is being too soft or too rigid, to remind him which battles are worth fighting, and, perhaps most importantly, to challenge him necessary. There are rumors, unverified but widely discussed among royal watchers, that Anne has encouraged Charles to be firmer in dealing with problematic family members, believing that internal discipline is essential to long-term stability. Other sources have suggested she is one of the few royals who can confront him without fear because he respects her judgment above almost anyone else. Whether these claims are fully accurate or not, they reflect a widely held truth. Anne is the spine of the monarchy. And yet, even as they work together, both Charles and Anne understand something they rarely articulate publicly. Their era is ending. This is the final chapter of the monarchy as shaped by Queen Elizabeth. When they are gone, the monarchy will look different, smaller, perhaps, more democratic, perhaps more symbolic than operational. The world William and George inherit will not resemble the one Charles was trained for, and so their mission is not only to preserve the crown, but to prepare it for a future in which reverence is no longer guaranteed. This is why every small decision matters, why every engagement is calculated, why every appearance is intentional. They are not simply carrying on tradition, they are negotiating with history. The monarchy has survived wars, abdications, assassinations, political revolts, and centuries of cultural transformation. What threatens it now is less dramatic, but more dangerous: irrelevance, apathy, the slow erosion of public belief that the crown serves a purpose. Charles and Anne are fighting that erosion with everything they have left. Through service, through visibility, through strategy, through quiet reinforcement of the values their mother embodied, and through efforts to ensure the monarchy doesn't just survive, but deserves to. The most revealing part of this struggle is how little of it is outward. There are no public declarations, no grand speeches about urgency or survival. Anne especially would never indulge that. The battle is happening in schedules, engagements, decisions about who appears where, how often, and on whose behalf, in subtle reorganizations of the institution's internal structure, in the handling of scandals, in the shaping of William and Catherine's responsibilities, in the small but meaningful shifts in how the monarchy communicates with the public. Anne and Charles understand that legacy is not built in moments of triumph. It is built in moments of preservation, in preventing the cracks from widening, in keeping the public from turning indifference into rejection. But time is still undefeated. Charles's reign will not be long. Anne's working years are limited. They are both fighting a generational clock, racing to stabilize the institution before the next handoff. And as they do, they carry an emotional weight no scandal can overshadow, the responsibility of safeguarding their mother's life's work. For all their differences, the Queen left both of them the same task: protect the crown until it can protect itself again. This is not a story of perfection. It is a story of resilience, a story of two siblings shaped by duty, now shaped by urgency. A story of transition, tension, partnership, and pressure. And ultimately, the story of how legacy is built not by those who shine the brightest, but by those who carry the heaviest burden. Whether Charles and Anne succeed is a question history will answer, but what is clear today is that they are fighting, quietly, relentlessly, determinedly, to keep the monarchy relevant in a world that no longer guarantees reverence, a world that demands evolution, a world they will not live to see fully transformed. Their legacy will not be measured in titles or ceremonies. It will be measured in whether the crown survives the century. And for now, behind palace walls, the fight continues.